And I get a lot of questions like, why not space these out or time them different? Budgets are so hard to line up. We try to coordinate, but some of these projects, we've got to fix some of the stuff. We've got to upgrade, so we can't necessarily wait for some of these others. We all drive in it. We all hate it. Councilman Hodges lives off of that street. He said it took him a while to get out. He's living it, right? So he feels it too, but it's still stuff we have to get done.
Welcome to Herrimanology.
The official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Friday, May 30th. I'm going to be honest, I've completely lost track of time this week. It's just one of those times that you never know what day it is or what time of day it is.
The holiday, it's been a busy week.
Yeah. It is Rodeo week.
Rodeo week is Memorial Day breakfast week.
Mm-hmm.
This week is a month and a week, it feels like.
It's June next week.
Right, let's not talk about that. So.
Yeah, for another apology, this is our second Herrimanology in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We had to skip twice. It's been a really busy time. So trying to catch up on a few things, but here we are, hopefully back to weekly again. I almost forgot the memory cards and cameras at the rodeo last night. So we almost had to do an on-site, but
we talked about that.
We did.
We'll do it again someday.
I'm John LaFollette, Communications Manager for Herriman City, joined today by Mayor Palmer.
Good to be here.
My wife did tell me if I was going to wear her sparkly cowgirl hat that she uses for Halloween costumes in honor of the rodeo, then she would actually listen to Herrimanology.
Wow. And
I didn't bring it today, so
I was getting excited you were going to pull it out from under the table.
I should have. She's probably distracted by the Taylor Swift news anyway.
Wait, what did I miss?
So she now owns all of her music. So the new Taylor's version albums that have been coming out aren't really necessary anymore going forward. So I guess if you're not a Swiftie, you could not care less. We'll move on in a moment. But if you are a Swiftie, you can now listen to the non-Taylor's versions with a good conscience because she now owns all of her music.
I had no idea.
So anyway, breaking
Taylor Swift
news on Herrimanology.
Bringing it to you here.
Let's talk. Construction projects. A couple of big ones. One that started this week that we've mentioned a couple times before, 5600 West Rosecrest Road between Main Street and 134th South.
Right.
Secondary water project. There are signs up there that say road work. I'm going to be on my soapbox again. I wish that we didn't use road work signs because we're not working on the road.
Right.
And that's often a criticism the government gets. This road is fine. Why are you tearing up this road? It's because we're working on stuff under the road.
Right.
So installing new secondary water lines to be able to supply more areas throughout the city. It'll be up to a couple of months interruptions on that road, but they're moving the project from the north to the south progressively throughout that project. So it seems as of this morning, they may not be impacting that Main Street intersection quite as much as they were. And that'll keep moving. So just like everywhere else, just plan a few extra minutes and there'll be some delays and dust and noise and everything. But
when I get a lot of questions like, why not space these out or time them different? Like budgets, we've talked about that before, right? Budgets are so hard to line up. We try to coordinate, but some of these projects, if you don't spend the money in the government, that's the way it works with government. If you don't spend it, you can't save it, right? You can't. So we've got to fix some of this stuff. We've got to upgrade. So we can't necessarily wait for some of these others. We all drive in it. We all hate it. Councilman Hodges lives off of that street. He said it took him a while to get out. Like, so he's living it, right? So he feels it too, but it's still stuff we have to get done.
Yeah, and to that point, there are a lot of projects that are coming up, or if you waited for, X project to be done here to do this one later, you're running into the list of future projects that needs to be done. There isn't really a great gap in time anywhere that you can plug projects to make them more convenient. They just kind of stink all the time.
Yeah.
And our weather here is such that we can't do very many things during the colder months, so everything has to be crammed into the warmer months, which makes it that much worse. And it is a bummer, but that's kind of is what it is.
But we are trying to make your lives easier. Truly, at the end of the day, these are improvements to the city, so we're trying.
UDOT is working on Bangerter Highway right now on a few different freeway interchanges. Another long-term improvement that is horrendously awful for traffic right now This weekend, speaking of horrendously awful,
Yes.
they're working on some sewer installation down on 27th West. So that'll be tonight, Friday night through first thing Monday morning. It'll be clear for rush hour Monday morning. Not to be confused with Jordan Basin sewer projects. This is a different new sewer installation down on 27th West. Anyway, because 134th isn't a spot where people can get on and off Bangerter like normal, they have to close the southbound lanes all the way up from 126th down to Redwood Road over the weekend. So you'll have to detour 126 South Redwood Road if you need to go south on Bangerter. And it's happened once or twice throughout this project. It's terrible. Hopefully, with it being on Saturday and Sunday, it'll be slightly less terrible.
It's funny. It just hit me. I'm headed south tomorrow. I'm panicking now because we run a tight time frame tomorrow. Well, this will be fun.
Well,
so.
Plan a few extra minutes.
Thanks for the heads up, John.
I think the plan a few extra minutes has probably now reached 20 and 30 minutes. But
yes, unfortunately.
So
yes.
Anyway, just be aware of that. We're trying to relay information as much as we can. And we get hit with a lot of proverbial arrows from residents who are really frustrated. It's not our project, but people largely don't care whose project it is. So I guess we'll take the arrows.
And again, this will be worth it all in the end. We promise.
One little nugget kind of along with that, Bangerter, that whole interchange will be done late this fall. Mm-hmm. Then we'll have about 1 year of, wow, this is great. All these improvements are like, they're done for now. We have all this anyway, the year after that, they're going to start Mountain View Freeway construction. That's going to have some major impacts on Herriman too. So 2027, you're going to see, it's going to be another great improvement. It's going to take a couple of years because they have to build bridges on, at 134, 126, Rosecrest, on Mountain View. That'll long term be really nice, but another headache. So, anyway, again, those are UDOT projects. We have some influence, but no real authority over those projects. So we're same as always. We'll pass along the information as we can, but just a little glimpse down the road that good things that are coming that are going to hurt for a little while.
Right. Absolutely.
Anyway, don't want to bear so much bad news today.
Let's find some good news in here today.
We did have a city council meeting this week. Usually this conversation happens in January where the city council has board and committee assignments. Mm-hmm. This might be a good time to kind of rehash that whole concept and what happened. Why did we talk about that again this week?
Right. So apart from being on the city council here, we sit on different committees that could represent our community, like the sewer district that Teddy sits on, could be the Unified Fire Authority that, Councilman Henderson sits on. So all these different committees, we go to meetings to represent the city on those boards. And so with the departure of Steve Shields, and the appointment of Councilmember Anderson, we just kind of brought Steve's assignments to Tara to see if she wanted to fill those in, fill in those spots. And for the most part, she's going to take those all on. We did make a couple of changes because we're going to add Tara to the youth council, but she's on the mosquito abatement committee, which seems to be a fun one that people get passionate about with their mosquitoes. But so Tara will serve on that, and then the rest of us kind of continue to serve in our roles right now, and we'll relook in January again, whoever's in those seats.
10-second plug for the mosquito abatement district. That is a very small sliver of your property taxes, and there's some services that come along with that very few people take any advantage of. South Salt Lake Mosquito Abatement District. If you're curious, just Google it, go there, explore their website, see what they offer. There's a lot of information, some services for mosquito abatement, spraying mosquitoes and treating different. Anyway, so hitting the summer months, so
for a couple of dollars a year, like really, it's minimal. So yep.
This wasn't on the agenda, but there was a lot of public comment about Gina Road this week.
Yes.
And for those unfamiliar with Gina Road, which is probably most people, it's a road, at least a section of road in western Herriman. And to our knowledge, it's the last public road in Herriman that's not paved. It's a dirt road. And in the last couple of weeks, there was an incident. There was a single car rollover. The driver's fine, but it caused a lot of attention and some angst. So there were some residents who live on that street who came in for public comment with some concerns they felt about the road and just kind of expressing some frustration, like, hey, is this is this going to get paved? Like, when's this going to happen? Can we make this happen? Because they feel like it would make the road not quite as susceptible to those sorts of accidents. At least that's kind of what they expressed.
Absolutely. And, we talked about this before, but hats off to those residents that came out. Like, they came out and they had a right to be frustrated. That was a scary situation, and they handled that with class. Like, they had well put together arguments, and we tell everybody that's how you get involved and make a difference. It's like we're all just humans on the council too. We're trying our best, right? We don't get trained in this, if you will. But the way they handled it was just they wanted us on their team is all, right? And so the way they handled it was, and honestly, it struck a nerve with that, in a good way, but in a good way to think maybe we have dropped the ball. I said that in the council meeting, like, I'm not afraid to admit when maybe we've dropped the ball and missed something, right? And I think this is probably one where we have, right? We've had this, I don't want to say an excuse, but kind of this reason of we don't own the whole road yet all the way through. And that's really been so it's been easy to punt on that project, but it's time to get something done. So we've already had meetings this week to those residents and anybody else. We've already had meetings this week trying to find, are there sources for money internally? We'll start making those calls externally as well to see what we can come up with. But I think pretty collectively as a council, we're ready to find a solution sooner rather than later on this.
Yeah. I was there, but mostly as a spectator. They weren't talking to me. They were talking to you. But it's interesting to me, as you mentioned, the city council members are humans, and they're your neighbors with everybody else, and you have decision-making authority, but you're otherwise just humans. And it seems to me more often, I'll even back up and say this, every resident's opinion deserves to be heard. But it typically, from my standpoint, seems to land better if you come in, even if it's an emotional, passionate topic, come in reasoned, here's what I'm feeling right now, and nobody likes to be yelled at or accused of any,
right,
of what have you, but it seems to land better. And I think the residents this week, very emotional, very passionate, came in very poised, and I thought it landed better with the city council, partly because of that.
100%. Yep.
So that's just my own opinion, but just based on what I've seen over the years, it lands better. And residents can kind of collect themselves and deliver their opinions that way. So
100%. So hats off to them. Yep.
Yeah. We'll also listen to people screaming at us and accusing and profanity and whatever, because we have to. But
yep. But it's harder. It's harder.
It's not as fun that way.
Yep.
And in the city council meeting, there was a presentation by city council member Andy Perucci from Riverton City, who represents Herriman and Riverton on the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District Board, one of those boards that you were mentioning. And he was delivering a report from Jordan Valley after their budgeting process and talking about rates, water rates, and things like that. Any takeaways from that presentation?
There's some changes coming, I believe. He said, and like I said, we were going to try to look, but I think there's a small property tax coming from them. There's a fee because they charge us a fee as a city, right, to buy the water that we put in. But then there's also a property tax for infrastructure that and I'm pretty sure he said, as I was thinking, I'm pretty sure there's a small property tax increase coming that they account for inflation, and then a change in the water fee to the city as well. So changes coming. Go watch. It's a complex issue, right? I'm still not having ever sat on that water board. Sherry understood it pretty well. It's tough for us to follow all those, but there's some changes. So his presentation's out there, so check it out.
Yeah.
And see what's coming.
Yeah. So like any property tax increase that happens in the state of Utah, they will have to go through a truth in taxation process for a proposed rate increase. I don't know off the top of my head how much it would be per household. You would have to go check Jordan Valley's website. We have some representation on that board, but that's as far as our authority and influence goes over that. So
and we'll try to get some more details from the water board as it gets closer, those changes. So we'll try to get back with more details on that.
Yeah. And speaking of Jordan Valley and water, I got an email this week from Spencer. I actually, first off, apologize to Spencer. He emailed this maybe Monday or Tuesday. I'm still digging through emails, and so I have not been ignoring you, Spencer.
Because you were gone for a week too.
Yeah, yep. I was. So I'll try to reply to him between now and when this is published, but apologies to that. I'm not meaning to ghost you. But he had a good question. I actually don't know if it was meant to be a podcast question, but we're going to address it here anyway, because I think some other people might have the same question. So Spencer said, I'm a regular listener on the Herrimanology podcast. In the episode on November 7th, 2024, you and Councilmember Hodges discussed the changes to the water rates, meaning the water prices that residents pay. And part of the justification to the water rate increase was that we were buying more water from Jordan Valley, which would make our water softer moving forward. Councilmember Hodges talked about the bags of salt that he hadn't used up yet due to the water being softer at his own house. So you can imagine my surprise to discover that our water went from 24 grains per gallon over the winter to a whopping 39 grains per gallon now. Frankly, this feels a little bit deceptive, like the water softness was using a bait and switch to avoid resident backlash over the rate increase. Where's the communication breakdown here? Why did our water hardness jump up 65%? Good question. And I think a lot of people might be wondering something similar if they've tested the water hardness in their home. To answer that, we kind of have to go back and talk about our water sourcing. So the water in your home could come from, is likely a mixture of a lot of different sources. But to categorize them, we have underground well water in Herriman, locally sourced. It's a lot cheaper to produce that than it is to buy from outside sources. So we have that kind of category of water sourcing, and then we have Jordan Valley, which gets water from a lot of different places regionally, and then we pay them as a city to deliver, or I'll use their fancy word, convey water to us from their sourcing to our city. They also deliver water to other cities too, and those cities will pay them. So you have those kind of two main sources. Our local water is extremely hard. And really, if you're using federal standards, every water source in Utah is really, really, really hard. I think the EPA even recommends any water at 10 grains per gallon or harder is undesirable, not unsafe, but undesirable.
Right.
You can't find any water in Utah that's under that, unless you have a reverse osmosis system or something like that. Anyway, just having to decide. We have really hard water here, and that's just how it is here. But Jordan Valley water is much less hard than our local water. It's also more expensive for us to buy it. And so in previous years, how it always has been before, let me back up a little bit. Different parts of the year have different water demands. In the summer, people are watering their lawns. They're not playing in the yard. There's a lot more water usage, a lot more water demand. We call that peak season, kind of like peak travel season. Then you have your colder months, so people aren't watering their lawns. That's non-peak season, or generally the winter months. In previous years, how it's always been before, in the non-peak colder month season, we used in our Herriman water system local sources only because it's cheaper. It's also really hard. We got a lot of complaints over the years that my water is super hard and awful during the winter months. And we're like, yes, this is why. In the peak months, we used a combination of local sourcing and Jordan Valley. And they kind of blend together. So water hardness overall got less during the summer because we were using that Jordan Valley water. So that was previous years. This last year, sorry, this is really long-winded. I hope this is making sense, but a long answer to Spencer's question. This last year, the city council decided to use, instead of local water during non-peak seasons, Jordan Valley water basically exclusively during the non-peak seasons because people complained about water hardness. Because there is that increase off-peak season cost, that was a part of the water rate increase that was approved last year. So water did improve for a lot of people. I know you've gotten comments, other council members have gotten comments this last season. Now that we're entering the peak season 2025, we're using that same method of using Jordan Valley water and local sourcing, which is going to increase the hardness overall. So I think what Spencer is experiencing in his home right now with his water hardness going up, I think everybody's probably experiencing something like that,
Right.
because we're using those multiple sources. And then later this coming winter, the hardness is going to go back down because we're using Jordan Valley water. Hopefully that makes sense. Did I miss any gaps there? But
The point, we couldn't go to it exclusively to Jordan Valley water. That was way
so
expensive. And I don't know if they had the availability to do that for us, right? So we couldn't go all the way. You think about it, the off-peak season is longer than the peak season. So that's kind of why we went this direction, was still you get more months out of the year on the off-peak plan that we have than the peak, so it's super frustrating, but at the same time, that's what we have, right? It's hard, but that's what we're working with out here. And there could be changes down the road that we can try. We've talked about that. I think we need to try to look for more investments, but they cost money too. They come at a major cost right now with everything else. So we're constantly talking of ways to do that, but this is really the best we can do right now. I hate saying that as a politician, if you will, but that's really what we've got right now.
Yeah. And water hardness it stinks. It gets in your appliances, and it gets over your shower doors, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
We're hoping that reducing the hardness during the non-peak seasons will help delay
Right.
appliance maintenance or replacement because of water hardness. But that's, at some point, it's just kind of a fact of living in Utah. Our water's really hard. It's just, to what degree is it hard?
Right.
So, hopefully, Spencer, that answers your question. So yes, the Jordan Valley sourcing change during the non-peak seasons was a part of the water rate increase. It wasn't the whole part of the increase.
Right.
And it's likely that we're going to have to increase those rates a couple times again. It's mostly infrastructure related. That's a whole other conversation. If
Yes.
we really want to, we can go
Yes.
into it. But that's another thing for another day.
Right.
So, again, hopefully that I think a lot of people are probably experiencing the same thing. Hey, the
Right.
city says it's gonna be less water or less hardness. Now it's being hard again. What's going on? So,
Overall, it is.
yeah,
Just not right now at this
right.
moment. Yeah.
So, if that did answer your question, Spencer, let me know and we'll try again. But
Yep.
anyway, so that was a lot of bad news today.
Good news is the rodeo sold out 3 nights,
And
and it's fun.
that was cool.
Yeah.
You had a nice appearance on we have a radio station, a country radio station, coming to help promote the rodeo. We've partnered with them, and they've done a great job. They were there last night, and you ran into me at some point beforehand and just said hi, like, hey, by the way, you ready to go jump on the radio?
You pawned that one off. I appreciate it. So,
I think people would rather hear from the mayor than some random staff
you
member.
could not be
but-
more wrong.
But nice job. It was great. So now a country music star to a degree.
Yes. Me and Taylor.
Right. Anyway, so that's enough for today. But if you didn't get rodeo tickets, sorry, they're sold out. Don't click on any of the links on any of the comment sections. People saying they have a ticket or DM that, like, don't
Don't do it.
do it. Just try again next year.
But watch the fireworks tonight, though.
I was
They
about to
are
say that.
fireworks tonight. You can see them. We used to sit at that LDS church on 6400 right there. And you can get a great view of them from there. So it's still, if you can't get the tickets, come nearby and watch the fireworks tonight.
That's Friday only. So
Friday only.
Then tomorrow we have a lot of championship riders coming.
Tomorrow's a big night.
Yeah. So it's gonna be cool. If you missed it, we'll see you at Town Days in a few weeks. But
Yep.
anyway, that's enough for today. That was a pretty long episode, but
I'll hear it from the council, so that's okay.
that's all right. This isn't the longest one we've ever done.
That's good. That's good.
Anyway, thanks, Mayor Palmer, for coming in
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.